Shalom Israel, giving all praises to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahawashi, by Hashem Rakakadash, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahawashi. Double honors to the apostle, elder bishops, great millstone, most salutations to the brothers teaching word for the hopeful elect. Soon to be the elect, most high will. To a hopeful extended elect, Shalom. We continue to exalt those names, Yahweh. He is to be, Yahawashi. He that delivers, he that saves, And we always say in the name of the Holy Spirit. So Yahawashi taught the law. What are these Christians talking about, man? It says Luke 18 and 20. Well, it says Luke 18 and 19. I'll start with that. It says, and Yahawashi said, it says Jesus, but that's not his name. It wasn't even, J's didn't even exist back then. And said unto him, why callest thou me good? None is good, save one that is God, Yahweh, Almighty. That lets you know there's two different entities. So that's a cut too, as well as other scriptures. Thou knowest the commandments. Do not commit adultery. Do not kill. Do not steal. Do not bear false witness. Honor thy father and thy mother. That's in the laws of Moses, man. So what are they talking about? He said, thou knowest the commandments. And he said, all these have I kept from my youth up. So that lets you know that they were Jews, that, so to speak, kept the law and in the laws of Moses. So Yahawashi wasn't against that. And he said, now when Yahawashi, he said, when Yahawashi heard these things, he said unto him, yet lackest thou one thing, sell all that thou hast. So that lets you know that they were wealthy Jews. And it kind of reminds me, even of the Jew nor Greek thing the Christians can't get over. That there were black Greeks during the Hellenistic age, and even into, because what came out the Greeks, the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire. So a lot of the philosophies, similar and if not the same philosophies, transferred over into the Roman King Empire from the Greek Empire. And those, we were under the Greeks, like Alexander the Greek, Antiochus Epiphanes. But there was a heavy influence of Greek customs. So we were being called Greeks. We've been known as Greeks. We even spoke Greek. And then that one, I don't know if he was an officer, he asked Paul, art thou that Egyptian? Can thou speak as Greek? So, and then let you know Paul was mistaken as an Egyptian, That's why they try to paint the picture that they're everybody, they're Egyptians too. No, Egyptians are Africans with so-called black skin. Man, if you go back, well, I looked up to like the Black Boule. They're wealthy. Martin Luther King was a part of the Black Boule. W.E.B. Du Bois was a part. Black Boule refers to Sigma Pi Phi, if I'm saying it right, the oldest Greek letter fraternity for black professionals, founded in 1904, and it says nothing new under the sun. They were black boules back then. Black, wealthy. It's an elite organization of high achieving African American men who served as leaders and mentors, even some, that were, how you go to the military, or you go, you could be in the so-called white man's army, and be an elite figure. You could be in the president's cabinet as an elite figure. The Al Sharptons, the Jesse Jacksons and jackasses, that were during the time when Martin Luther King was on the scene. Those type of men were the same type of men that were engaging in public affairs with being rich, being wealthy. This organization aims to create a powerful network for mutual support and community advancement, though it has also been subject to rumors and conspiracy theories. So think I even looked it up. Is Black Boule a wealthy? It says yes, historically and by design, the Black Greek letter fraternity Sigma Pi Phi, also known as the Boule, was founded. Was founded. What did it say? Was founded to include and advance established, successful black professional men who were often well off or on the path to becoming wealthy professionals. As it was the first of its kind and focused on the advancement, betterment of the African American community through its elite membership. So there was such thing as a black elite, you know. So even back then, when Yahawashi was talking to this man, he was wealthy of the Jew family, which many were elite figures, and even getting into Greek fraternities, just like now. They called it something else back then, but that was the same thing as a Black Boule today. And and even these churches that uh, the disciples were sent to, the apostles were sent to, were practicing Greek customs like long hair, you know, eating swine and all that. You know, a lot of that was based on, you know, um, Yahushua and the disciples approaching the Gentiles, the Greeks that were Israelites in the Gentile state of mind, in the Greek state of mind, referring to the scripture Jew nor Greek. Often they were approached to kind of be more lenient in a kind of way to help them understand what was coming um, to the surface of the spirit of the Most High, which you know didn't include a lot of the physical aspects of the laws of Moses, but more of the spiritually exercised motives that were supposed to be known of, because faith came, uh, you know, faith was always with us. I mean, Most High had always, he was always with us, in the ancient world, even dealing with Abraham. So faith is not a New Testament thing, you know. But Abraham did get circumcised, and he circumcised his whole house. He even circumcised Ishmael, which is a heathen, So, Yahushua was telling the man, well, sell all, let me go back. Um, so the man said, all these have I kept from my youth. So he was keeping the laws of Moses. Now, when Yahushua heard these things, he said unto him, yet lackest thou one thing, sell all that thou hast and distribute unto the poor, and thou shalt have treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. And when he heard this, he was very sorrowful, for he was very rich. And when Yahushua saw that he was very sorrowful, he said, how hardly shall they have riches into the kingdom of the Most High? For it's easier for a camel to go through a needle through a needle's eye than for a rich man to enter into the kingdom of God. And they that heard it said, who then can be saved? And he said, these things which are impossible with men are possible with the Most High, Yahweh. So that Jew nor Greek thing, and it even tells you, these Christians just being devils, that's all. Because they're not, and a lot of them been paid off. I mean, if you go by a 501c3 charter, you might as well take the bag. You're already in it. And a lot of them know that they were established by those means, and they doing the devil's work. A lot of them already know. A lot of them are part of the Black Boule, a part of some type of fraternity, sorority, some type of secret society themselves, masonry, Freemasonry. Um, so it says Galatians 3:28. There is neither Jew nor Greek. There is neither bond nor free. There is neither male nor female. For ye are all one in Yahawashi. So a lot of Jews that were strict, they were even strict against the female, saying, "Nah, you getting cut off right away because you're a female." Not because of her, just like the woman that they accused of adultery, and Yahawashi said, go your way. Where you thy accusers? There is none that stand before me. He said, neither do I accuse you, uh, or condemn you, what have you. Go your way and sin no more. Sin is transgression of the law. So he was telling her, keep the laws. Don't be committing adultery. Don't be committing idol. Don't be idol worshiping and all that. So, you know, so that's why I said for ye are all one in Yahawashi. And it even says when a man and a woman get together, they become one. So you had a lot of Jews that's like, hardcore against their women, like, man, get rid of this bitch. But it says, no man hated his own flesh. So it was talking about Israelites. It ain't talking about every male and female of any nation in the world. It's talking because we had problems within the our Jew, they would call it religion, but Jew families. Now I go to that word Greek. This won't be long. I'm getting closed out. Greek, Helen, which goes back to Hellenistic age, time of the Greek Empire.
Strong's G 1672. Helene.
Helene. A Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the main or the Greek islands or colonies. In a wider sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews, that made language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. Well, if you read in the Apocrypha, that's why they took it out. The Apocrypha is a hidden book. It goes with the, I think the first edition of the Bible was in 1604. But if you go to the 1611 and the 1604, 1611, the Apocrypha is in there. They took that Apocrypha out which means hidden book, because there's a lot of historical information in there that pertains to the Greek Empire and us being influenced by Greek customs. You can read that all through, even during that time of the Maccabees. It was a time when the Maccabees rebelled against the, against the authorities and the government. So they didn't want that to be read about from us, because we would, we'd be encouraged to do the same, I believe. But it says a Hellen, Grecian, or inhabitant of Hellas, by extension a Greek-speaking person, especially a non-Jew Gentile Greek. So there were Jews that were born outside Jerusalem. There were Jews that were considered not Jew because they were cut off. And it even says that in the scriptures, in the laws. It says if your brother do this, offend, or if he, or a woman do this, adultery, they gonna get cut off, mainly by death. But some things were not into death; they were just cut off. Get outside of the, stay outside Jerusalem. You're no longer admitted or permitted to be in Jerusalem, and then they'll leave them out there like a heathen. And it even says that in the New Testament too. It says, count him as a heathen. That don't. Well, let me get that scripture. So they were still following the laws, man. Yahawashi still encouraged the law. He just did it in a way to where, they can get it in their spirit to understand that, where the the sin was coming from. It wasn't, you know, because even today you'll be like you'll have somebody get baptized and they think it's some kind of magical thing to where it makes you not sin no more. Nah, you're gonna still sin after a baptism. That doesn't clean. That's why he was telling the Jews, you clean on the outside of the cup, but inside, you're like filthy man's bones. So Yahawashi was saying, nah, you got to get your mind right. That was the law that was supposed to be uh, imputed in men, or for men to learn the law to become perfect. But of course, it didn't make anything perfect because they were exercising pretty much the wrong thing in a way, to where it made nothing perfect. So, uh, hopefully that makes sense. Um, it says Matthew 18 and 17. If he neglect to hear them, tell it into the church. But if he neglect to hear the church, let him be unto thee as a heathen man and a publican. That's written in the New Testament. So there were, even in the past, ancient times, where our people were cut off from the mainland, the main. You can't go to the Passover. You know, like nah, we know you're a Jew, but you did some heathenistic things where you can't come to the Passover. You can't get out of this land. And Yahweh ultimately too, as a nation, he kicked Israel out, and then he kicked Judah out of the land. That's what used to happen back then within our customs and practice. So then you'll be counted as a heathen. So you'll be called a Greek. Whatever that Greek ass. He's a Greek. He's a heathen. It was a family member, I think, on YouTube, and he told his own son that he's a heathen. You know, what they Fran Sanford. There's a popular TV show starring Red Fox. He used to, go back and forth with Esther, which was his best friend off screen. But she was a church lady, and every time, they get into an argument, she called him a heathen. You old heathen. But they from the same people. They're both so-called black. They're both Jews. So that's what was going on too in those ancient days. And still, some fashions of, like it says, right here, I read in Matthew, count him as a heathen, a publican, you know? So, uh, that that man that Yahweh Shai said to sell all that has, and he said, no, well, that was, what such man could pretty much do that. Like, and then Yahweh Shai told him. So he would be known as a heathen if he couldn't give up his riches, which he would be like he's definitely a Greek by 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 his actions, not by blood. You know, going back to the Black Boule fraternities into Greek, as you see right here, Black Boule refers to Sigma, Pi Phi, the oldest Greek letter fraternity for black professionals founded. So there were a lot, like ancient world too, there were a lot of professional law keepers, what I'm saying, schoolmasters that knew the law but fashioned it into a Greek custom. They were black Greeks, so to speak, within the Jew sect, elite figures that were, spending their money at the wine, misusing abusing and misusing the gospel, the truth, using our people for money, and using the law against our people to get money. Those are those kind of people too. That's who Yahawashi. He didn't hate his own people, man. And a lot of people followed. A lot of people believed. I think Nicodemus was one of them. But you know, and as you see, when Paul was talking, when he said, "Well, I was chief of the, Hebrews of the Hebrews. I was one of the chief ones that encouraged this behavior and this manner of authority against our own people. I would be there. I would encourage it." So he was, you have people in prominent positions of, of power, so to speak, among uh, the Jews, so-called blacks. You know, so uh, yeah, Yahweh Shai encouraged them to keep the law. Sin no more. Sin is transgression of the law. The laws were exercised in the Jew sect, um, kind of like a hit and miss kind of method, to where they can justify this, but what about this? That's why Yahweh Shai said, you leave, one thing undone. You do all this, but leave, and with one of your fingers, you won't even move or do this. So there was a lot of rich, wealthy, so-called, rich, wealthy black Jews that were, you know, laying around, drinking wine, using people's money, and you know, opening the doors to use their authority against their own people, you know, and you know, getting a greed, you know. Some of them probably like fat and sloppy because they, what I'm saying, just like them pork rind preachers, man. But it was we ate healthier back then. It was so you never know, but it's probably a few of them like that, you know. But I'm just saying, it's talking about our people. This is our book, man. The only time it talks about these other nations when it's talking about judgment and talking about what is prophesied of them to be for the time until Most High turns the time over, turn the tables. So yeah, you know, these other nations are they play a part in the book, but this is our book, you know. And like I said, the things that they've done, taking the Apocrypha out by the destruction group, you know, um, you could read a lot of the Greek history that we're influenced by, Greek customs that we're influenced by, um, in the Apocrypha. So, people that are Christians, they don't put the history together. They don't really talk about history. They just cherry pick scriptures. But if you, go into our history and the apostles, the elders call it secular history, you could well put together. I mean, uh, doesn't take a genius to put together what was really happening or how these things play out. You know, uh, even in the Roman Empire, and play out even today, which is modern day Rome, this America, and it's the same thing happening. A lot of those people that are in the industry, like right here it says, it has a picture of P Diddy. A lot of them are tied into the Black Boule. You prominent actors and actresses, they'll tell you that they in the Greek fraternities. I would say 99.9% of them. I'm gonna just use that as a way of saying most of them. Power, Legacy, and the PD connection to Black Boule. And you see it has the griffin right there. You know, the lion, where it doesn't have the eagle's wings, but it reminds you of the griffin, which you know a lot of we were under the Assyrians also, the Northern Kingdom. So this goes back to the practice of both kingdoms, the northern and the southern kingdom, so-called Black, Latino, and Native Americans. And people that are in the rap industry, as well as the overall music industry and sports and the boxing world, that are Latinos. That's like Fat Joe, Big Pun when he was alive, Cuban Links, and all those people that they're tied into the Black Boule too, or into um, the Grecian influence too. And if you go back to Greek, it means accept. It means to. They use it in the sexual term as the back door. So a lot of them are bending over to receive gifts and prizes from, you know, the power system of the Greek Empire. That's just because you born in Greece. That don't mean you're a Grecian by nationality. We're not Americans by nationality. We're just born in America. We were enslaved here. This is not our original homeland. Which some many blacks have made it their homeland. We cry out to go back to Jerusalem, but it has to be cleaned up. Before that, Most High is gonna, do that for us. Lord, will we are those ones that go back after the lands is cleansed and rebuilt by these elite men of the Illuminati. You know, but of course they want us dead. Just like they'll get rid of you in the music industry if you're not doing right. But they still practice Greek fraternities, Greek customs, and into Greek fraternities. Let me read this and I'll close out. And this, I'm not going to read it all. In this provocative episode, we pull back the curtain on one of the most exclusive and misunderstood organizations in the Black America, the Black Boule, formerly known as Sigma Pi Phi, founded in 1904. This elite society of high achieving African Americans. So when they talk about Black culture and Black community, it's a false narrative because it's coming from them, which they're doing, uh, all kind of debauchery and ill will and sacrifices. So when our people talk about Black love, Black community, they're imitating what they see on TV. But like I said, it's a false narrative because inside that is a secret society of Black cockers that do um, horrific practices regarding immoral behavior. Of high achieving African American men have counted icons like W.E.B. I read that Du Bois, Martin Luther King Jr., and Eric Holder among its ranks. But what exactly is the Boule? Why does it inspire so many rumors, whispers, and conspiracy theories? Yeah. So who our people believe in? A lot of our people believe in Martin Luther King, even to this day. They say he's a great man. He was a false prophet. Even Malcolm X and all those other that are make public appearances that are tied into public affairs with political figures. Even having rank among in a political office. They are part of this. You know, and they're the ones that influence our people. They're the shepherds that influence our people to go astray, just like back then in the ancient world when Yahawashi was talking to those Greeks that were really Israelites but practiced Greek customs. Anyway, hope it was edifying. Shalom.